This is the Spurs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, one of those nights where you're not anticipating your team to come out on the better end of things. One of those nights where everything is stacked up against them going into it, but somehow, some way, your team finds a way to win the game. And that was the Spurs tonight in Orlando. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs, the number one podcast network in all of the land, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, Sports Podcast Network in all of the land. I'm Casey Viera, my buddy Devin Brown. He is coaching tonight. That's what he does when he's not hanging out with us, hitting you with the insight. So with the early start time in Orlando, he's out there on the sideline doing his thing out here in the Alamo City. Quite the game in Florida tonight. Not one, admittedly, I was expecting to go the Spurs way, because I'll get into a minute. Every single aspect of this was working against them, but they found a way. A 114-112 victory in Orlando against a good Magic team that came in winners of 12 of 16, a 12-4 start, or since a 12-4 since a 1-4 start, and they found a way to do it, much like they've been doing the duration of this season in some of these interesting spots, and they get the job done tonight. So, with that said, let's tell you how they got there.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right. So last night, the Spurs, of course, play Memphis at home, of course, coming off of a 4-game road trip, not even in San Antonio for 48 hours. They get on a plane immediately after the game. They don't get into Orlando until 3:30 in the morning. So you get to the hotel, you make whatever you can. Who knows when you even go to sleep, but you do. You get to sleep, you get rest. You go out, you face a Magic team that's playing fantastic basketball right now, known for kind of a jail yard brand, if you will. And that's the prize that you get going to Florida, going to the magical place that is Orlando, Florida. Try to go out there and try to muster something, the first of a lengthy road trip that's on deck, or in the middle of, I should say, for this Spurs team. And they did not look like a team that missed a beat, because for the duration of this basketball game, this is a squad that was in control. They led by as many as 15 up until the third quarter. Magic ultimately chip in that. They get it down to 3 after 3 quarters of play. I should say 7 after 3 quarters of play. It was a fantastic fourth quarter that saw the Spurs have a counter punch for every single punch that the Magic threw at them on the way back. And they hit them plenty, because that deficit went from 9 to 8 to 6 to 5 to ultimately 1. And that is when things got a little bit dicey, because the Spurs hit their free throws with 7 seconds left to go, or ultimately, we'll get to the 7 seconds left to go. De'Aaron Fox hits a pair, and it puts them up by 3. So Franz Wagner, their star player, comes back and promptly, after Jeremy Sohan in the middle misses 2 more free throws, he gets fouled on a 3-point attempt. And he misses, or Barnes fouls him on a 3-point attempt. He makes all 3, and it sets the stage for De'Aaron Fox. And in a fourth quarter that he was fantastic today, he hits 2 free throws in the closing moments, and it tallies up to a 31-5-5 night. He had 12 points in the fourth quarter. Dylan Harper, 16 points tonight with 5 boards, 5 assists, 10 in the fourth quarter. 22 out of the 28 Spurs points tonight coming by way in the fourth quarter by way of Fox and Dylan Harper to anchor the ship. So Fox gets fouled with 1.4 seconds left, knocks them both down, and San Antonio finds a way to win the game, 114-112. How did they do that? Well, it was a decision, not a great one, by Franz Wagner that ultimately was the deciding factor.
Uh-oh, somebody messed up, and it's time to let them know with who fudged up.
Franz Wagner actually played a great game tonight. He had 25 points. So 1.4 seconds left to go, and the night is on the line. Franz Wagner gets a great look underneath the cup. Beautifully designed out-of-bounds play. Gets a great look underneath, and Luke Kornet comes in and sends this thing 15 rows into the stands for a walk-off block-off winner, whatever you want to call it. Spurs take the game 114-112, and as a result, they start the road trip on a high. They move to 15-6 on the season, 6-4 on the road, 7-2 without Victor Wembanyama. And honestly, one of the more fun games in recent memory. That's certainly this season for sure one of the more fun games. It was imperfect. It had its flaws, for better or worse. You got some good things out of it. You got some bad things out of it. And you take what you can get. But I think the biggest positive was that, for me at least, that I took out of it was that they controlled the pace from start to finish. And when the numbers were not entirely advantageous to them, which they were for the duration of this basketball game, if we're being honest, they didn't kind of let that overcome them, for lack of a better term, if you will. They overcame the fatigue and they had the counterpunch. There was a stretch in the fourth quarter where I mentioned how the Magic chipped away, and understandably so. They're a good team playing in their building. They're a deep team as well. They're making up all this ground, I should say, in the Eastern Conference, regain whatever you want to call it, all the ground in the Eastern Conference without their star Paolo Banchero. And it's a testament to the team that they did put together. But credit to Dylan Harper, knocking down big-time threes. De'Aaron Fox, a couple big-time threes as well. And obviously the biggest free throws of them all that iced the win ultimately for San Antonio. But what I like out of this, again, to go back to the Harper and Fox side of things, was that this is the first time we saw extended minutes through a majority of a quarter. I guess probably the best way to phrase that was for all but maybe 4 minutes, you saw both the two of them on the floor at the same time. I believe Dylan Harper did not sit in the fourth. I got to double check on that, but more of those crunch time minutes between Harper and Fox. And it was not immaculate. The team as a whole, they did show fatigue a lot tonight. They had 19 turnovers. They only shot 46% from the field, comparatively speaking, to as well they had been shooting prior. A couple 50% previous few nights, 34% from three. The tired legs did show at the end of the day, but it felt like there was something there for the first time. I guess yesterday too. Now that I say that, that things are really starting to settle in on the Harper and Fox side of things. And for something that's been such a big question mark, this is a good sign. This is a great sign, because how many times have we talked about the aspect of it where they're interchangeable, their skill sets are interchangeable, they have the same flaws. I'm guilty of it. I have said exactly that. I've said exactly those things. So I think there's an element that is true. You know, they do have a lot of the same similarities, and they do have a lot of the same cautionary things that they do have. And so we've been waiting for that to kind of mesh and come along the way. And I think tonight you saw that for the better. And when you have the two of them that are dynamic, need them to go out there and make plays, need them to go out there and take over basketball games, they do exactly that. And they did that tonight. And you can't want much more than that, because you find ways to win. And Mitch Johnson was in a spot where he had to do exactly that. He had no choice. He went 11 deep tonight, actually the second consecutive game, because he knew what was on the horizon. He knows this Orlando team is physical. They'll beat you up in their own way. And above all else, they're a good basketball team. They're a good basketball team. I mentioned Franz Wagner. I know we were having fun, but I mean, he's probably going to be an all-star this year. Jalen Suggs had 24 tonight as well. And Desmond Bane, he didn't have a great night, but he was coming off 2 37-point game, consecutive 37-point game performances. So it's a talented team that the Spurs were at a largely disadvantageous situation, and they made the most of it, and they capitalized when they needed to. And they did a whole lot of good things to build off of going forward and to start, I guess, the second half of a road trip on a high. Whatever you want to call it. We're right in the meat of the middle of this road swing, whatever you want to call it. And it's a good sign for sure going forward for this San Antonio team. Other notables to tally up there tonight: Harrison Barnes, he had 11, Devin Vassell 15, Luke Kornet, in addition to that block off, if you will, 5.7 boards, 4 assists. The walk-off winner was one of 3 that he did have on the night. Listen, you take what you can get. You use something like this tonight, and you use the positives of it, and you find ways to win. And that's what they did. And we'll see if that translates. They got a big test coming up against the Cavaliers. and then New Orleans as well before the big time game against the Lakers in the Emirates Cup knockout round coming up a week from today, actually. Yeah, a week from today, December 10th. All of it presumably without Victor and Stephon Castle, but we'll see. All right, coming up on the other side of the break, you might have heard about that big chatter about Giannis Antetokounmpo, that guy. ESPN reporting that he has his sights potentially on an exit out of Milwaukee. What this means for the San Antonio Spurs, what it doesn't mean. Could they become suitors? What Milwaukee might be interested in. All those things that we're going to talk about on the other side of the break. But before we do, we're going to talk about some of our friends who help drive this program. Now, I'm sure we got some soccer fans in the chat tonight or checking out wherever you may be. And as you know, the World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since '94, 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be a big deal. But let's be honest. It's going to be hard to get tickets. We're being honest. But that's why the Game Time app, it comes in clutch. It finally gives the fans a real advantage when it comes to getting some big time seats for this. You track the prices when they drop in real time with Game Time. You get the alert when the seat that you want, it opens up, and you buy the tickets right then and there on the app. It puts the power back in your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets. And every match, every concert, every event, you need somewhere to go because the Spurs ain't going to be in town for the entire month of December, basically. Do all that with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. As always, terms do apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And as they say with Game Time, swipe, tap, ticket, and go. I also have another question for you. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market where you can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. With Robinhood prediction markets, they change the game. It's people moving the action. So when the momentum shifts, you can move along with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play by play. You decide, trade every play with Robinhood. All right. Let's talk about guys who will not be here, potentially not be here, coming in from wherever they will be, or guys in San Antonio might be on the way out, the hypothetical, if you will. As always, this time of year when the star comes floating about, the name comes floating about, the Spurs with their assets and everything that they have in the war chest become conversation pieces of whether or not they should get into the conversation to make a move for a star. And as was kind of the case over the summer, reports continued today that Giannis Antetokounmpo is seeking an exit from Milwaukee. Shams Charania saying that pretty much he's going to give the Bucks 25 games. They're at 22 right now. They're 9-13. And if he doesn't like what he's seeing, all right, we got to all sit down in the same room and get an idea where we're going with things. We'll see where that ends up taking them. And the question now is whether or not the Spurs come into the conversation. And for better or worse, it's something that's going to be a conversation the rest of the way, because the job that Brian Wright has done has put them in a spot where they have more than enough, should they choose to make the phone call. And the thing is, there's like more than one way that you could possibly get there. There's more than one avenue that they can get there, given the fact that they have built themselves up for this moment. And that was a big reason they didn't make the play on Kevin Durant over the summer, was that they were waiting for something like this to happen, presumably Giannis. We know that. And whether or not that is the direction that they go, we'll see. But there is a direction that they can go, and there's multiple paths to get there. And the few dates that you're going to want to look out for if this were to go down. December 15th is when all the recently signed players that they did pick up in the offseason, though not overly applicable to them, because a lot of the guys they did have in-house that they would theoretically be on the way out, they do already have in-house. But the idea of the market expanding that much more, the trade market expanding that much more, December 15th is when that happened. So just less than 2 weeks away, I should say. On February 4th, that is when De'Aaron Fox his contract essentially becomes trade eligible. Now, this is a lot of the paths. These are a few of the paths that Spurs fans, this is what we do, right? This is what we do. We sit around and we speculate, and we all play the armchair GM. We all pretend that we're Brian Wright. We have fun with things, and we wonder if this becomes a possibility. And the Spurs are in a spot right now where they put themselves in multiple avenues that they can get there should the Milwaukee pursue which way they decide to go. They can put together, you operate under the assumption that it's going to be one of Harper or Castle that's going all the way out. Take your pick as to which one it is. But they have the pieces in the contract, in the money, whoever it is, Keldon, Vassell, Sohan, Barnes and Olynyk, they're expiring, to make that part work. So is that the direction that they want to go? Is there a world where Milwaukee don't value Harper or Stephon Castle? They want to get a 3-team deal in there as well. They want to covet somebody else's young assets. Well, the Spurs have all their draft picks for the foreseeable future in the first round. They have Atlanta's swap this year, Atlanta's next year, Boston in 28, and Sacramento. I don't know how they manufactured a 2031 swap out of Sacramento in the Fox deal. Beyond me, but they did it. That's one direction they can go. The other direction, obviously, is the De'Aaron Fox side of things. They'd still have to make up a little bit of money because Fox's extension is at 37 mil, or I should say 37 mil this year. His extension doesn't kick in until next season. So that number is going to bump all the way up to 49 this time next year of that $229 million contract. You're going to have to add about 17-ish to even out with Giannis's 54. And of course, the big thing above all else is wonder if after the 26-27 season, Giannis will re-up. He has a player option for 27-28, but 9 times out of 10, when you see a guy in that spot, they don't pick up the option. They test free agency. They bet on themselves and they do that. So for all intents and purposes, we'll have him under a contract for 1 more year. And I don't want to hit too much on it because this is going to be a subject of our Spurs squad show tomorrow where Devin will be back. Jeff Garcia hosts the title pod. He'll be back and we'll really dig deep into it because we'll have more time to get into it. But, it's something at least worth examining. Food for thought before we all reconvene tomorrow, because you look at things on the immediacy. Above all else, is it worth it? Giannis is a top 3 player, depending on the day of the week. Top 2 player. He actually did leave the game tonight in Milwaukee with a calf strain, ironically enough. So, we're all keeping an eye on that for the better or worse. But you're thinking about things like fit. You're thinking about the window that they do have. You're thinking about things like, where are you in 3 years from now? Are you better suited to have the likes of Harper, Castle as the complementary pieces, De'Aaron Fox, this route that they're going? Or has this just been a continuous aspect or plan, I guess, for lack of a better term, that the front office has had to say, if this were to happen, Milwaukee, we got 3 packages we're going to present to you. Bing, bang, boom. Which one you want? We got that. We have everything you want. Theoretically, in my opinion, at least, taking off the silver and black goggles aside, you look at what else is out there. And right now, I have a hard time seeing a situation where the Spurs do not have as good a deal as anybody else, or have as good a deal, I should say, as everybody else. The fear, however, is that he ends up with Oklahoma City because they have more than enough to get it done because the Clippers are terrible right now. And they can get there the same exact route that the Spurs can. They can present multiple players and multiple picks. If they want to start with that Clippers pick that's going to convey and likely be top 5 and Chet Holmgren, cool. If they want to give all the picks that Sam Presti has accrued over time, they want to go that route, some role players, Here you go. That would be my fear as a Spurs fan, that he ends up over there and then you're in a real dilemma. Again, December 15th is when the fun is really going to start. So we're going to have 2 weeks of this. Hopefully Giannis is, doing well for the better, and dialogue that will need to continue. But I will say this. The rumor is that he wants New York, that was the conversation, that the Knicks did have a conversation, one of the few teams in the offseason, the only team, I should say. If I'm a Western Conference executive, I'm getting involved every single way to be like, all right, you need a third team to keep Giannis in the East, Milwaukee. You need a third team to facilitate a trade to keep him with the Knicks or send him to Miami or send him to Atlanta. Call me up. We'll help getting it done, because if there's a world where you're not San Antonio, you're not Oklahoma City, and you're looking at the top of the Western Conference and you're saying that this is what we're looking at. We're looking at a world where we're facing either San Antonio or Oklahoma City with either SGA and Giannis, or Wemby or Giannis for the foreseeable future. Get the deal done, man. Get them out of the Western Conference. Anyways, I digress. Spurs winners tonight, 114-112 to move to 15-6 on the season. And we got to show love, as we always do, before we wrap things up, to our player of the game tonight.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Usually I give Devin Brown the forum to do that, but he, of course, is not here, so I will make the call. And I'm going to go with Luke Kornet, because we're going to say De'Aaron Fox is going to get more love in these player of the game situations. We're going to say Dylan Harper. How many times can you get a walk-off block, flex like Hulk Hogan, that block goes 15 rows into the stands, and you get to call it a night, and you get to be the Locked On Spurs player of the game? That, to me, sounds like a fantastic Wednesday, in my unbiased opinion. That's just me. Anyways, hey, we got a busy week. We're in the middle of a busy week, I should say, here on the Locked On Spurs family, because obviously this is the second of a back-to-back. So busy stretch for me. Jeff Garcia has always got you covered on the title pod. He'll have a new one out in the AM tomorrow. But we also have our Spurs squad show right here on Locked On Spurs. 9 o'clock, myself, Jeff, Devin will be back. I'm going to be talking about more of this Giannis stuff. Going to be talking about the De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper dynamic, how it's working, and a whole lot more. Got that on deck for you coming up tomorrow, 9 o'clock. And of course, Devin and I back on the postcast on Friday following Spurs Cavaliers. And as we always do on this program, just got to show love to you guys for hanging out with us. You're the everydayers. You're the ones who drive this program. You're the ones that make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land. It's because of the everydayers like yourself who drive this, who are engaged and have a lot of fun. Just know that we are having just as much fun along with you, probably even more fun along the way. I played an animation tonight that says, let them know who fudged up. Fudged. We have sponsors. Don't worry. All right. On that note, Spurs winners tonight, 114-112, taking care of business in Orlando, Cleveland on Friday. I'll talk to you tomorrow on the squad show. Have a nice night. See you then.